Hey, is this the school? A young blonde boy with tiny devil horns walked up to the ruckus. He had a pointed tail and bat wings, and also a chest and thighs I could spend several pages lovingly describing. Even though I'm an adult writer, I should not be writing such sexual descriptions of what essentially amounts to children. Who are you? Edward smacked his forehead. Jacob sighed and put his shirt on. I'm Dimitri, the incubus. Why? I'm eternally in love with you! Make me an incubus! Succubus, Dimitri corrected. Yeah, that! How old are you? Dimitri said, confused. 19 now! Dimitri laughed long and hard. What in God's name would I have in common with you? I'm 10,000 years old. I met a Jonas brother once, Bella said defensively. I met Jesus Christ. She does this to everyone, dude, Jacob said, slowly removing his shirt. Dimitri stopped him. What the hell are you doing? I don't really know, sir. For some reason, I have this compulsion to do this on a regular basis, as though it's an excuse for a writer too old to be perving on teenagers, to be describing my tight, chiseled body, to a bunch of girls too young to be perving on, well, anybody. And I'm scared. Sounds like a book written in crayon, Dimitri said. So, he's glowing? Is that like a superpower? Vampires glow, Bella said. No, they don't, Dimitri said dryly. He pushed the two police officers to the side and rolled Edward onto his stomach. He ran his talons down Edward's bloody shirt and tore. 2 foot-long butterfly wings popped out. Yep, thought so. She got here as a fairy. Bella gasped. You know he just knocked you up to steal your baby, right? It's what they do. Changelings and whatnot. Bella ran to Dimitri's side, wrapping her arms around him and nuzzling her face into his chest. Protect me from the fairy, she said. He pushed her away. Girl, you're still a baby. I'm an incubus, and I know it's not cool to go fucking teenagers when you're older than 20. Besides, Indian Joe over there's taking his shirt off again. Ooh, Bella said, running to Jacob's side. Edward slowly tried to crawl away, leaving a trail of blood behind him. Get your glowing ass back here, fairy, Chief Swan said. We ain't finished yet. The officers pushed him back, drawing ballistic batons. It went on for hours and hours. And hours. They beat him a lot. If I haven't made it clear at this point, again, they beat him a lot. But in the end, he learned a valuable lesson that you should never forget. Maybe 100-year-old fairies should just leave the kids alone. Last one. I'm going to finish this up. Is anyone here from Fremont? Good, because no one's going to be kicking my ass after this. There's a little bit of story behind this one, which is I had a person who basically told us this story about somebody from Fremont who was the ass-kickingest man in the world, to the point where it didn't even make sense anymore. He Paul Bunyan'd this person to a point where I just couldn't believe it anymore. And in the end, I wrote this because I kind of like tall tales. I think it's a good storytelling style, and I think we should bring it back. So I'm gonna get out my pipe. Grandpa. All right. Years ago, in the little town of Fremont, Nebraska, where the pleasant aroma of the hog rendering plant blankets the city in its sweet perfume, and the wind doesn't blow, it sucks, lived the greatest warrior the world had ever seen. His Christian name was Django Stevens. But when the day... nope, I don't skip there. Come on. 9 feet tall he was, with biceps like kegs of Pabst Blue Ribbon, and legs so powerful he could tip cows 2 at a time. During the daylight hours, majestic in his flannel shirt and Peterbilt hat, he spent the days at the meatpacking plant, stunning cows not with an air hammer, but with the power of his glare alone. But when the day ended and the moon was high in the sky, Django Stevens would comb back his mullet just so, slip on his biggest, shiniest belt buckle, and drive down to Scooter's pub. There he was the drinkingest, fightingest man the town had ever seen. He'd fight men 6 at a time, they'd say, until the wee hours, when he'd retire to his glorious double wide, with the waitress of his choice, and celebrate his victory till dawn. Such was his life, until one fateful night. There he stood upon a pile of unconscious men, enjoying a dip of fine Copenhagen chewing tobacco and a cold, tall boy of American Pilsner. He was considering calling the police on himself just so he'd have someone to punch out when the door to the pub exploded into splinters. There, resplendent in a rhinestone-bedazzled karate gi, the gel making his hair shine like the surface of the sun, stood Steven Seagal. "I reckon that boy's gonna stomp you," said one of the pile through a mouthful of bloody teeth. Django said nothing. He finished his tall boy in one mighty swig, spit his chewing tobacco out on the floor, and cracked his knuckles. Now when old Django Stevens cracked his knuckles, all across Fremont the men would cower and the women would ovulate. But Seagal never moved. "I'm a 7th Dan and a keto," Seagal said. Django squared up. "And I got a 7th Dan and whipping ass," Django replied. Those who were there on that fateful day say that Seagal tried to kick him. But Django reached his hand back so far that when the punch came, it had a Texas postmark on the knuckles. Folks swear that Seagal exploded into a pile of blood and hair, but I have it on good authority that NASA scientists have seen him in the Hubble Space Telescope orbiting Jupiter. As Django was wiping his hair from the gel from his knuckles, who should step out of the shadows but the Incredible Hulk? Django saw him, and before you know it, danged if Django didn't use his expert high school wrestling moves to twist the Hulk up into a balloon animal that he gave to a passing child. Then he struck the child unconscious, as was his wont. By then every filly in Fremont was there, each one eager and willing to sire Django's heir. He was so busy checking these delicate Fremont blossoms for open sores and missing teeth that he nearly missed these entire Chicago bears sneaking up from behind, each and every one carrying a rusty lawn dart. Django turned and let out a bellow that would turn a gay man straight, a straight man gay, and a bi-curious man one way or the other, and rush straight along into the fray. Legend has it that the ruckus was so loud that the police were taking noise complaints all the way in China. Now it was about this time that Django was growing weary of tossing with mere mortals. Smashing a beer bottle over the head of the final Chicago bear, Django Stevens uttered his famous last words. "I'm gonna go knock Jehovah the fuck out. He ain't better than me," he said, and then jammed the beer bottle right into his throat. The force with which his spirit left his mortal shell washed the running boards of every truck in Fremont, if legends can be believed. Now nobody knows if old Django knocked out Yahweh, but we do know that the very next day, President George Walker Bush became the 43rd President of the United States. Folks around these parts say, if you listen just right, you can still hear old Django's voice on the wind, cussing at his common-law wife to make him some dinner. They say he'll come back one day when the town is threatened and wings are 6 for $1 and retake his rightful place as the Emperor of Fremont. That all being said, the best thing you can do to stop more of me happening is to support them. Planned Parenthood, and you can stop people like me from ever being born.